There is a lot of perceived data aggregation tools. Our perceived competition is really not true competition. We do have overlapping features and functionality with most of the companies out there in our space. We do things quite a bit different than a lot of them. A lot of them are focused on the visualization. And, they've been doing it for a lot of years. Great visualizations. Others are focused on streaming the data off-site. We do all of those things, but we do it a little different. Most of the companies out there streaming data right now, our perceived competitors, they have them in a methodology where they look at the end solution and provide the data that's required for the end solution. Coldboard differs because we focus on taking data and making it standard and useful for any solution out there. So we never focus on the end result. We focus on the beginning. If you don't have great data, you don't get great results.
I'm Alex Fortin. I am the Chief Technology Officer at Coldboard Technology. Been in that role for the past year.
I'm Blair Layton. I'm the financial guy at the company. My focus here is to work every day to increase our revenue, increase our margins, increase our profit.
I'm Shane Cassell, Chief Revenue Officer at Coldboard Technology. Currently look after all of operations and sales department.
I mean, Coldboard is a data. It is a completions data company, right? And so what we do is we create a level of abstraction between all the services company that need to come together for a completions operation and the operator that owns those wells. In a nutshell, that's what we do. There's a lot of things involved in there. Like over the years, we've digitized a bunch of things that are on site that were not digitized in the past. Most famously, the fractory. But not only that, we also connect to all services that have a digital output on site, and then basically we create this data set for the operator that they can either use in real time, post job, mid job. And that's consistent across all, like during the operation, consistent and agnostic from whatever service companies is on site, and also consistent across different fleets for companies, for example, that are running multiple fleets simultaneously. So they can have this one-stop shop when it comes to everything completions on the data side. That's what we do.
Because we connect all the operations on a pad, so that and we tie them to an operational timeline, an irrefutable operational timeline. It allows all the services on pad to do a better job. They can see what everyone else is doing. They can correlate their work to everyone else's work. They can work out inefficiencies. They can find invisible lost time that's being wasted on a pad. And they can do that right now in real time because they can all see what's going on and have that insight, that deep resolution into what's going on. But then that data also moves to the cloud, and the operator, the engineer in town can then also look at that. And they can use the data that they're looking at, this data that's been correlated to an irrefutable timeline, and they can look at that and try to make the next stage of the well better. They can put effort into again, adding more efficiency, but maybe not right now in the moment like you would on a pad, but for the next moment, the next hour, the next stage, the next day. And then you can take that even further because they have data science teams that can then take that data, take all the correlations between all the services and all the operations and every stage that's happening on that well and the past well that they looked at and the pad a year and a half ago. And they can start running analytics on that to make the next well even better than the last well. So I look at that as there's so many, it's kind of multifaceted. They can work on it. They can take the data and the correlations and all the information we're pulling together and use it second by second to increase efficiencies. They can use it for the next second in the future to make that better. And they can use it for the next decade to make that better.
I think about one of our major clients, and for them, having a standard data set has changed the way they run their operations. We've seen them increase well switch opportunity. We have a feature called Waiting to Frac, WTF, which everyone's quite enjoyed. But through the visibility that standardized data set has created, they've restructured how they actually arrange their pad, their procedures, increase their efficiency, and they attribute about $3 million per year in efficiency gains per frac fleet for understanding why they're waiting to frac.
The drilling side of oil and gas has done a wonderful job on the digital side, and it's been kind of leaps and bounds ahead of the completion side. And so when you're going to look at your investment in the well, and you're going to look at the output that you got, and if you have major discrepancies, even though on the surface things looks like you did very similarly, you might want to now try to dig into what happened, right? And why are we seeing those things? Because as a company, we want to always, we have those wells, we have those acreage. We're expecting a certain return on those on those assets, and if you can't really predict the output of your assets, it becomes a problem, obviously, right? Because that drives your investment, that drives a lot of everything that you're going to do in the future. And so when you have some of this discrepancy and you want to look at what happened, you'll find a lot of information on the drilling side. And if you end up on the completion side, this is where things will be very, very opaque. And then you'll move to the production side and things will be fairly clear again, right? And I think that's how a lot of operators come to work with a company like Colbor, is to basically add that digitization so that opaqueness is much less or even non-existent anymore, and you have a very clear understanding of what went differently from one frac to the other, from one crew to the other. So that's how I would explain essentially how an operator kind of comes around to finding a solution like ours.
The biggest problem is actually correlating the data sets. There hasn't been a lot of effort put into tying drilling, completions, production together. It was always a mentality of one group is better than the other. And when you have a WITSML format that's been predominant in drilling since early 90s, you have no standard data set in completions. Production runs on a SCADA data set primarily. So you've got three different data sets. So tying those together right now is a monumental task. Most companies are moving towards trying that, but getting the standard completions data set is step one. Production is already standard, it's SCADA. Drilling is already WITSML. So having the standard data set for completions is the final step for them to actually start looking at combining the drilling, completions, production data.
And what about maybe from just a pure completion standpoint, right? Do we have conversation with customer that now that I have access to that completions data set and they're focusing on their completion operation, that have actually started to change how they operate based off the learning of the data?
That's a tough question.
I mean, you mentioned that earlier, right? It's how is a good example, right? Where, based on a lot of those hidden switch over time, then they realize, oh, shit, we have that much switch over, with this crew and not with that crew. What's going on? Maybe just expanding on that.
Just thinking back to, one of the best examples of understanding the data and having standard data in real time is actually where I got a call from, I think it was a COO at the time, saying, hey, can we compare stage 45 to 47? I was like, absolutely. So bring up the data and do an overlap, and we see, about 1,000 pound pressure reduction during pumping time for the stage. And he's like, that's exactly what I was looking for. What they did was change their chemical mixtures, their chemical program for that stage, and they were able to pump at a higher rate with a reduced pressure. So immediate impact based on standard data from one stage to the next. Historically, you would have done that post job where you would have actually had to line up the data sets manually, probably in an Excel format, and identify the pressure at the given time. And the timestamps probably would have been inaccurate at the same time. So no standard data, no exact results.
A month or two ago, I was at CES, and I'm walking around and I saw one of the tire companies that we all know and have on our vehicles that had a data-driven tire, which caught my attention. So I walked over and I was talking to the guy there, and I said, I don't understand how you're going to sell that, because I already paid too much money for tires. There's no way I'm paying more for a data tire. That's not going to happen. And he explained to me what they're doing, which I thought was brilliant, but it kind of ties together with what Colbor does. They take all the data. You have tire pressure monitor sensors on or tire monitor pressure sensors, whatever that is, on your vehicle. You have drag. They can tell the drag on each vehicle. They have vibration sensors. They have GPS in the car that tells you what roads you're on, whether it's highway, whether it's gravel. They have acceleration sensors. They have deceleration sensors. And so this tire company takes all of the data that already exists from other sources and other sensors, ties it all together, and they're able to help the driver or the owner of those vehicles get more out of their tires. They're actually able to show them that you need to change this or do that because this tire is going to wear out, not is worn out, but is going to wear out because it has drag, because there's a bad bearing or there's a caliper wrong or something like that. They have all these sensors that have always existed, and there's more and more sensors all the time, and they're just pulling all that data together to get more out of what they already have. And I looked at that as a correlation between what Colbor does. We just take all the data that's there, tie that all together, and help the operator get more out of what they're already doing.
And that's brings an interesting point, because I've read about this, and also because sometimes like we create a data set that's really what we're focusing on, right? It's more, there's other our own customers, they build their own application on top of our data. We do a little bit of that with our own application, and now we're seeing even other companies in our space that are trying to sit their app on top of our data, right? And that's really what we're focused on. And because what happens too is that sometimes there's kind of things that you didn't even expect or didn't even think about in the past that now they have that data become possible. And I'll give you an example of that is a story of a bunch of meteorologists. So these guys, they're trying to work on an app that tells you, look, right, it's raining and this and that, and creating those kind of those kind of radars that you see on TV or on your phone when you put it up, and they were really having trouble with accuracy and being in real time. People were looking like, like your thing says it's not raining here, but it's pouring around my face, right? And then they realized that most of the cars now have a sensor around their wipers. And then what it started to do is to tap into wiper data in real time, so that they knew that where wipers were really going hard, it was raining, and when wipers weren't, it wasn't. And then they added that as another data set into their radars. And that's one of the examples, like things that you would never think about. Like the guys that, they just put a sensor on like a wiper. Like it was probably for wear and tear, or like it was some other reason. It was not for the meteorologist to figure out where it was raining and put it on a map. And so that's the power of what we do, right? Is like there's a lot of things that can be leveraged, and I know there's a lot of things that will be leveraged out of our data set because of how well correlated, because of how well representative of reality it is, that we can't even think about. We don't even think about right now that people will come up with in the future.
Like you said, there's so much data that's already out there. The problem with the data is that it's disparate. It's not joined together. And that's where we changed the industry, because bringing all of these different companies together, you're not going to get one frac company that's on one site sharing their data with the next frac company, and vice versa. But what we bring is a single data set to the company to the operator to make it useful. It doesn't matter which services. Never in the past has all of the services interacted and exchanged their data or combined their data for the benefit of the operator. We combine that now. So now they have a standard data set. It doesn't matter if you change services out partways through or not. But having that data set that they can actually get from Cold Bore, that's the first change. The second change is most of the companies out there have spent millions of dollars already building their own analytics, their own tools to predict, their own this, that, and the other app, but they haven't had the data to actually power it. Now Cold Bore can stream that data any way you want. You can do old school, download CSV to power it. You can use API. You can stream in WebSocket. So the technology team at Cold Bore has made data available for you to not just build with, but to power existing.
The things that Cold Bore is used for vary between customers for sure. We've had customers that have looked at the Cold Bore data, and the biggest thing for them is safety. Maybe they've had safety incidents in the past, or maybe they've had some problems. But having a beacon or a light that told them when there was a hot zone was on was a big, crucial, important thing, and that was important to them. And then you have companies at the complete other end of the spectrum that suck every single data point they can possibly get. They have a data science team. They run full analytics on everything. They look for cross correlations between everything that's happening to try to pull every second of efficiencies they can, and everything in between. So every client has a different use or a different need or see a different value initially in what Cold Bore provides them. And that's kind of one of the beauties of Cold Bore is it provides so much. If you're just looking for something simple, we provide all that. If you're looking for, getting the most efficiency on pad by reducing, waiting to frac time, reducing, just kind of lost efficiencies that are happening on the pad in real time, Cold Bore does that beautifully. If you're looking to have a data science team run deep analytics on things, Cold Bore does that perfectly. And everything between that.
Yeah, it has been a wide span in the last 4 or 5 years. Initially, the big thing was just having visibility in frac tree, well swap, just the digital frac tree. Initially, when we went out there, that's all it was. And then they're like, well, if you got that data, can you tie into frac? Can you tie into wireline? Can you tie into pump down? Like it's grown so much that the initial was a digital safety timeline offering, and now we've gotten to the point where most companies are actually focusing on the data. 6 years ago, completions data was interesting, but nobody really dove that far into it. It was, let's just put it in the ground, faster, harder, better, quicker, get her done. Now it's, hey, we need to understand what we're actually doing. So a lot of companies now are focusing more on the actual data, even live real time and post. So it's been quite a transition from mostly operational and efficiency and visual into more of a streamlined data, understand how to use the data, make the data work for them. So
that's one of the things I've really enjoyed is our clients have understood the more insight they can get into their operations by pulling more and more data. Like you say, they're, frac and then wireline and pump down and coil and chemicals and sand and water and noise and temperature. And if there's a data set, we have access to it and it can now be correlated to the entire operation.
I've seen some clients, dive right into focusing on well switch. Well switch has been important for a lot of people. Now, that was early on. We've gotten to a point now where with a lot of these digital frac trees and smart iron solutions out there, we're actually not even doing well swaps manually anymore, not even hydraulically. They're automated. So the efficiency that we looked at even 2 years ago is very different than the efficiency gains we're looking at today. We've got a partner out there, a digital fractory company. They just did 154 hours of continuous pumping, like nonstop pumping, which was never heard of before. So every company's got a little different efficiency, a little different opportunity to change how their data makes money for them. Well switches, safety, streamlining the operations, understanding what operations are actually occurring, how they're counteracting with each other sometimes. So every operator is a little different. Every operator we spend more time selling the features, the efficiencies, the savings now. We spend more time understanding what their digital solutions are, what they're looking to do in the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months. What are their priorities? So we spend a lot of time learning from our clients and understanding how we can apply cold bore to their solution.
You can get into dreaming as to where the completions space will go, or any space. I mean, my son just drove home from the United States in my truck, and the truck drove autonomously came down I-15 and drove itself home. Ford has Blue Cruise and it drives itself. And it's in an electric truck. If you'd have told me 5 years ago that I'd have an electric truck that drove itself, there's no way I'd even believe that. So, where can we go with fracking? Dare to dream. With the amount of data that is collected, where can't you go with fracking?
I mean, the sky's the limit. The restriction right now is human. So the more data, the more automation that's implied. I mean, we've even got companies out there that are doing a hot swap on during pumping, right? They're able to isolate and pull pumps out and move them in and out without shutting down. A year ago, that wasn't even in the playbook. Now you're doing 154 hours pump time. The average before that was, 16 to 20 hours are good pump days. Now you're hitting 24. You're increasing efficiency. You're automating your swaps between wells. You're getting back to rate so much faster than you ever were. A 6-well pad that was 30 days, you're going to be doing in 20 days now. There's, like you said, the sky's the limit. Autonomy is possible. There'll just be a few limitations.
Well, when you say the limitations are human, you take machine-driven everything, algorithms that are running most of it, tied to an irrefutable timeline that's mechanically based. There is no limit to where you can go with that.